I'm Dr. S.Padmapriya. I'm guiding the students in their preparation for UGC Net Economics exam. I have already covered the first 3 lessons of Microeconomics unit of UGC Net Economics syllabus in my previous videos, and now I am proceeding to lesson number 4 of Microeconomics, which is Game Theory, Non-Cooperative Games. What is game theory? It is a theoretical framework for conceiving social situations among competing players. In some respects, game theory is the science of strategy, or at least the optimal decision making of independent and competing actors in a strategic setting. Game theory is a study of mathematical models of strategic interaction among rational decision makers. Originally, it addressed zero-sum games in which each participant's gains or losses are exactly balanced by those of the other participants. The main proponents of game theory were John Nash, John von Neumann, and Oscar Morgenstern. Modern game theory began with the idea of mixed strategy equilibria, in which two people zero-sum games, and its proof was given by John von Neumann. John von Neumann's original proof used the Brouwer fixed point theorem on continuous mappings into compact convex sets, which became a standard method in game theory and mathematical economics. Now we can use the same game theory in real world situations, such as in price competition and product releases. Their outcomes can be predicted. Now, what is the basis of the game theory? The focus of the game theory is the game. The game serves as a model of an interactive situation among rational players. The key to game theory is that one player's payoff is contingent on the strategy implemented by the other player. So, what the first player will get is based on the strategy implemented by the other player. The game identifies the player's identities, preferences, and available strategies, and how these strategies affect the outcome. According to game theory, the actions and choices of all participants affect the outcome of each. So this is very important. The game theory says that the actions and choices of all participants affect the outcome of each. So it's not independent, but they are all mutually dependent. How is the game theory used in business? It helps to predict likely outcomes when firms engage in certain behavior, such as price fixing and collusion. Economists often use game theory to understand oligopoly firm behavior. Now, what are the types of game theory? Cooperative game theory deals with how coalitions or cooperative groups interact when only the payoffs are known. It is a game between coalitions of players rather than between individuals. In non-cooperative games, it deals with how rational economic agents deal with each other to achieve their own goals. The most common non-cooperative game is the strategy game. Thus, a cooperative game is one wherein the agents are able to resort to some institution or third party in order to enable cooperation and optimal results for all. A game is non-cooperative if the players cannot form the structures required to enable cooperation. What does it mean? A non-cooperative game is where the players don't want to help each other. They don't have structures to help each other. In the absence of cooperative mechanisms, each player may follow the course that renders them the best payoff without regard for what the other player is doing or what is optimal for the overall system. So what does it mean? Each one is playing for themselves. They're selfish. And so this can result in suboptimal outcomes for all. The selfish behavior of an individual player affects the outcomes of the other players. In non-cooperative games, each agent in the game is assumed to act in his own self-interest, and this self-interested agent is the primary unit of analysis in the non-cooperative game. So the agent is self-interested. They are not interested in the welfare of the society or the common welfare. There is no cooperative structure. Real world situation involves cooperative games, non-cooperative games, and both. Non-cooperative games may be inherently zero-sum. What one person wins, the other loses. So what is zero-sum game? It is where one person will win means the other person will lose. Example, in a sporting event, Usually, if it is a tennis event and two players are playing tennis, one will win means the other has to lose. So there are zero-sum games which are non-cooperative games. So zero-sum games are non-cooperative games. They are strictly competitive games. The actor concentrates on maximizing payoff in such a strictly competitive game. The real world is filled with many informal, social and cultural institutions designed to enable trust, cooperation and the optimal outcomes for all the results in them as soon as two people start to interact, develop commonalities, etc. In non-cooperative games, actors cannot interact and form the trust required for cooperation. Example, in the case of a competitive market. So, the good example of a non-cooperative game is a competitive market in which every player is trying to do what is best for themselves and not is what is best for the industry or for everybody else. So, they are interested in only selfishness or they want their own company to come up. Thomas Hobbes was one of the early thinkers who vividly illustrates how in the absence of binding contracts created by the third party like the government, players are unable to create any binding contracts. How should individuals act to get a stable equilibrium? Optimization of payoffs. That is very important. So, if you want to have stable equilibrium, we must have optimization of payoffs. Now, we come to the concept of Nash equilibrium. It is an outcome reached that once achieved means no player can increase payoff by changing decision unilaterally. It can also be thought of as no regrets in the sense that once a decision is made, the player will have no regrets concerning decisions concerning the consequences. There can be one equilibrium or more than one equilibrium in a game. The Nash equilibrium is described as a no regrets situation. It is a solution concept of a non-cooperative game involving two or more players. So, important idea that we have to understand in Nash equilibrium is that it is a no regrets game. It involves more than two players in which each player is assumed to know the equilibrium strategies of the other players and no player has anything to gain by changing his or her own strategy. So, here the player cannot just gain something on his own by changing only his strategy. If each player has chosen a strategy and no player can benefit by changing strategies while the other player keeps theirs unchanged, then the current set of strategy chosen and the corresponding payoffs constitute Nash equilibrium. A Nash equilibrium is a point where all players are doing their best in self-interest in the absence of cooperative structures. So, a very important concept, Nash equilibrium. It is a point where all players are doing their best in self-interest in the absence of cooperative structures. And there is another important concept called as prisoner's dilemma. Now, this is a very important standard example of game analyzed in game theory that shows why two completely rational individuals might not cooperate even if it appears that it is in their best interest to do so. So, this prisoner's dilemma is a very good example of two rational individuals who don't cooperate though they know it will be in their best interest to cooperate. It was given by Merrill Flood and Melvin Drescher. So, thus, in this particular lesson, we have covered some important concepts of cooperative games, non-cooperative games, Nash equilibrium and prisoner's dilemma. So, cooperative games are those games in which there is cooperation. In the real world, there is cooperation as well as non-cooperation. There are non-cooperative games also wherein there are no structures to help the players to help each other. Then we have Nash equilibrium, which is an outcome reached that once reached, means that no player can increase the payoff by changing decision unilaterally. It is a no regrets equilibrium. Then we have another concept which is known as prisoner's dilemma, which is a standard example which shows that even when two people have something to gain by cooperating, they don't cooperate, and that is known as prisoner's dilemma. This concept of prisoner's dilemma, remember, it is given by Merrill Flood and Melvin Drescher. So, this is the end of lesson number 4 of microeconomics coming under UGC Net Economics syllabus. Thank you.